Good morning. I am Rebecca Crawford, Director of Religious Exploration.
And I am the Reverend Aaron Stockwell, Senior Minister of First Parish in Framingham.
As we begin this hour of worship together, we invite you into this simple but powerful prayer. We speak it at the start of every religious exploration class and gathering. We are the church of the open mind, of the loving heart, and of the helping hands.
So welcome to this hour of worship to all.
Welcome to those who think like you and those whose thoughts could not be more different.
Welcome to those whose hearts are aching and those whose hearts are glad.
Welcome to those whose hands help in all manner of ways, in the soil, on the keyboard, for themselves and for others.
Welcome, dear one, to this intentionally multi-generational service.
Welcome, dear one, to this hour of worship, apart on our own devices, but most vitally together in spirit.
When we breathe in love. When we breathe out peace. When we breathe in and out together, even though we are across the miles, even though we are kindling our separate flames, we are together, perhaps even more effectively, breathing love and peace in our world, in our own corners. As we light the chalice, the symbol of hope and truth in Unitarian Universalism, as we kindle this flame of light, fueled by oil and amplified by wick, let us bring more peace and love to this, our hurting world.
Love is the doctrine of our church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve all life with compassion, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God.
The other day, I wrote a letter to my grandmother. She died when I was 7, and so sometimes I struggle to remember her the way that I knew her. And I started my letter like this. Dear Grandma, mother of my mother, Margaret, wise one, reader of stories, keeper of traditions, baker of cookies, one who tended the garden, caretaker, believer of fairy tales, wrapper of gifts, child of my ancestors, birthplace of legacy, explorer, fierce feminist, lover of all of us, chief cheerleader, and soother of my soul. And when I could think of no more, I simply ended my letter like this. Love me.
In our community, there is great joy and there is also great sorrow. This is the time in our service that we set aside for sharing of those things which brought a smile to our face or a tear to our eye. There'll be prompts on this screen as we light the candles that will give a better order to our sharing. Of course, in this time when we are gathering virtually, privacy cannot be guaranteed. So if there's something that you need to let me know about but you don't wish to share with others, please do send me an email. I'll be sure to get in touch with you.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Stay with me, stay with me, stay with me, oh my soul. Stay with me, stay with me, stay with me, oh my soul. with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
Our prayer today is an embodied prayer written by the Benedictine nuns of Cuernavaca, Mexico in the year 2000. We invite you to participate as much or as little as you want, but follow along. Placing our feet on the earth, feel its energy breathing, slowing, relaxing our bodies, and opening up to the Spirit of life, perhaps the Spirit of God.
Bringing our hands to the prayer position, thumbs touching the heart. We remember our connection to the heart of God, or all that is.
And then bringing our hands down, open, palms up in a gesture symbolic of gratitude. We gratefully receive the gifts of this day. Grateful for the gifts we recognize and those we don't. Grateful for those people in our circles. We open ourselves to receive the gifts of this week's journey.
Touching our palms back to back, fingers pointing to the sky in a gesture of symbolic memory, we remember our past, all that brought us here. Grateful for all that has made us who we are. We give thanks for our individual and collective past.
Now turning our hands, backs still together, fingers moving in to touch the heart in a gesture recognizing our authentic selves. We feel our emotion, feeling where we are right now and what is happening inside, who we are without the masks. We give thanks for our authentic selves and all the feelings we carry into this moment and into this week.
Extending our arms out, palms down, we reach for the good, the sacred, in a gesture of symbolic of reaching for good, God and good, our yearning to connect, to love and be loved.
Bringing our arms up to the sky, we give thanks for the air that we share, rich and poor, all of God's creation. We acknowledge that we pollute the air and we ask for forgiveness. We acknowledge the mystery of the skies, the universe, and we give thanks.
Coming down to touch the earth, we express thanks for her. We acknowledge that we often do not even recognize what we are walking on her, and we acknowledge that we pollute and harm the earth, and we ask forgiveness.
Standing up, we bring our hands into a prayer position to the third eye, and we ask for vision, for clarity, for new ways to live and love.
Bringing the hands back to the heart, touching our God center, we feel how we are always connected to God and the Spirit of life.
Now I invite you to further relax and to listen to the quiet that exists in your home. We are in the time of our congregation's life, as you know, where we are considering the financial commitments that we make to support this congregation. This week's testimonial will be given by someone who I doubt needs any introduction, Pat Greeley.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to have this opportunity to share with you why First Parish has been such an important part of my life for 67 years. Until I met Tony Greeley, I had never even heard of Unitarian or Universalist. I was an Army brat, and my family moved every 2 years to different posts. And on each post, we were assigned a chaplain, a Protestant chaplain, because we were Protestants. And it might be a Methodist, or it might be a Baptist, or a Lutheran, or any one of the other Protestant churches. So for me, it was almost like the church across the street in our church. And I think I liked it very much. I was very happy with it. With the attack on Pearl Harbor beginning World War II for the United States, my families, like others, many others, changed forever. By the time it was over, I had lost my faith in God and decided I didn't believe in one anymore. And eventually I became an agnostic because as I grew older, I began to think, wait a minute, something's created us. There has to be something. So I guess at that point I was an agnostic. Music actually saved me. I joined the choir, which enabled me to then be in church with Tony, who was downstairs. And from then on, things changed. Over the 50 years I sang with the choir, I was given so much more than I can ever describe. The choir members were just terrific people. We had such fun together. We had so many wonderful experiences with our concerts and our Sunday services. And by the end of it, I was hooked. I was a first parishioner. In recent years, the Women's Alliance, Pies on the Common, Caritas, the Women's Prison Outreach, and even men's club programs have given my life purpose. You, the members of First Parish, have been my second family. And I have been blessed with your love and your friendship. And this is why I support First Parish in Framingham. Thank you.
Pat, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your story with First Parish in Framingham. The ongoing work of our congregation depends deeply on your generosity. There is a link below, it's the second link, that will allow you to pay a pledge or give an offering to sustain the work of this congregation online. Or you can feel free to send a check to 24 Vernon Street, Framingham, Massachusetts, 01701. The morning offering will now be joyfully given and gratefully received.
Praying by Mary Oliver. It doesn't have to be the blue iris. It could be weeds in a vacant lot or a few small stones. Just pay attention, then patch a few words together, and don't try to make them elaborate. This isn't a contest, but the doorway into thanks and a silence in which another voice may speak.
Often I think when we think of prayer, we think it is something formal and strict. Some of us are brought up with prayers that we memorized, the Lord's Prayer, the Johnny Appleseed Grace, or prayers at bedtime. Others of us learned prayers that were in another language, and perhaps we struggled even more to connect with the meaning. Mary Oliver's poem is an invitation to consider prayer as a doorway into thanks, in which another voice may speak. They do not have to be elaborate. There is no Academy Award for best prayer, no Pulitzer for best prayer, or the other way around. But we do have to pay attention. Her poem, if you didn't know the title, I don't know if you would think that it was about prayer. You might even think it was just her instructions for writing poetry. Meister Eckhart, a mystic writer, used to say that if the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is thank you, it will be enough. I think Mary Oliver agrees with her.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Spirit of life, come unto me.
This poem by Nancy Schaefer. Because she wanted everyone to feel included in her prayer, she said right at the beginning several names for the holy. Spirit, she said, Holy One, Mystery, God. But then, thinking those weren't enough ways of addressing that which cannot fully be addressed, she added particularities, saying, Spirit of life, Spirit of love, Ancient Holy One, Mystery we will not ever fully know, Gracious God, and also Spirit of this earth, God of Sarah, Gaia, Thou. And then, tongue loosened, she fell to naming superlatives as well. Most creative one, greatest source, closest hope, even though superlatives for the sacred seemed probably redundant. But then she couldn't stop. One who made the stars, she said, although she knew, technically, a number of those present didn't believe the stars had been made by anyone or thing, but just luckily happened. One who is an entire ocean of compassion, she said, and no one laughed. That which has been present since before the beginning, she said, and the room was silent. Then, although she hadn't imagined it this way, others began to offer names. Peace, said one. One my mother knew, said another. Ancestor, said a third. Wind, rain, breath, said one near the back. Refuge, that which holds us all. A child said water. Someone said Kuan Yin, then womb. Witness, great kindness, great eagle, eternal stillness, and then there wasn't any need to say the things she had thought would be important to say. And everyone sat hushed until someone said, Amen.
I grew up without prayer in my life. The first grace I probably recited was the Johnny Appleseed grace that had been painted on an interior wall of the dining hall at the Boy Scout camp I went to. Sometimes before the meals it was this grace that was said. Other times it was a staff member who gave it. I remember paying attention to different positions of prayer, different ways of addressing the holy. It seemed like nothing was wrong, but still things didn't feel right to me when it came to prayer. I didn't believe that everything happened for a reason. I didn't believe that God answered our prayers. To put it bluntly, I didn't believe that there was a cosmic ATM that if you asked in the right way, you would get something from in return. I wasn't sure why people prayed. Growing up, the time for meditation at the First Parish in Groton sometimes was the written work of another Unitarian Universalist minister. And the other line I always remember was a hope for peace in all of the war-torn parts of our world. This was in the mid-2000s. Then I went off to seminary where the Lord's Prayer was said sometimes in community chapel services, though there was mumbling in some parts. Was it debts, sins, or trespasses? Sometimes in the order of service it just said Lord's Prayer with debts and debtors in parentheses, or just debts, sins, trespasses. You choose. My first 2 years in seminary, I also worked at King's Chapel in downtown Boston. King's Chapel is a church that is Unitarian in theology, Anglican in liturgy, and Congregational in polity. So while they are members of our denomination, they use an adapted version of the Book of Common Prayer. I wasn't sure what to make of a strict liturgy. I thought that it would hold people in. Where was the room for creativity in worship, I thought? I read something while I was there. I worked at the front desk as an administrative assistant and often had a lot of spare time on my hands, so I read everything that was in the library. And that's something that I read has stuck with me. I think it's from the foreword of the 1986 version of their Book of Common Prayer, where the author wrote, "People often ask us why we have kept the prayer book. We respond, it isn't us who kept the prayer book, but rather the prayer book who kept us. Ritual grounds people." Going off to my internship at the First Parish in Lincoln, the senior minister and parish minister led the time for prayer 2 or 3 times a month with a lay leader who would read a prayer that they had written on the other Sundays. There I was introduced to many beautiful ways to address the divine. The senior minister led a class on how to write prayers every 2 or 3 years. maybe we could even do that here. In between years 1 and 2 of my parish internship, I was a hospital chaplain intern at Mass General Hospital, working with the broken-hearted people on the 3 cardiac care floors there. Oftentimes at the end of a patient visit, the patient would ask me to pray for them. I still didn't believe that my prayers worked. I didn't believe that my asking for health and healing made it happen. So why was I praying for that patient? As a chaplain intern, my duty was to help meet the religious needs of the patients on the floors that I was working on and not impose my own beliefs. So if a patient needed prayer, I prayed for them. I also remember praying with some Catholic patients and praying the Lord's Prayer and noticing that there was a point where they stopped saying it, and I continued on, and I was curious about that. At some point, I became skilled at a formula for delivering spontaneous prayer in worship, using a formula that the writer Anne Lamott would call wow, thanks, and help. I think she even wrote a book by that title. I usually add oops to it. This is an old formula for prayer. Now, I don't pray much as an individual. I do sometimes recite prayers that have been said for ages, because there is power in calling your attention to things that other people thought were important. Prayer to me is about lifting up our soul's deepest longing and putting words to that deep longing. I don't know if the divine answers, but I do know that the divine is found in our communal interchange. The sacred, the holy, the divinity in you and me and the universe. And perhaps by sharing that out loud, we align those divine sparks and can move towards action, a more just, grateful, caring, kind, compassionate web of life. And perhaps that is enough. Dear one, though we are gathered together yet separately, I invite you to consider how you might find prayer in your own life. And if you're somebody who, like me, isn't convinced of the power of prayer, maybe just try it once or twice. We lose nothing by doing that. If you had an older definition of prayer from your childhood or another religion that you belong to or faith tradition that you belong to, I invite you to imagine, what if you were encountering prayer anew? What gifts might you uncover? May it be so, and amen.
Spirit of my life, give me strength through stress and strife. Help me live with dignity and me know serenity. Fill me with a vision, clear my mind of fear and confusion. When my thoughts flow restlessly, let peace find a home in me. Spirit of great mystery, hear the still small voice in me. Help me live my wordless creed as I comfort those in need. Fill me with compassion, be the source of my intuition. Then me. Let love be my legacy.
Together we extinguish our flames in our separate homes. Let the smoke waft over you. And then we close with this prayer by Abram Heschel. Prayer invites God to be present in our spirits and in our lives. Prayer cannot bring water to parched land, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, and rebuild a weakened will. May you go forth into this week with the prayers on your heart spoken.